Good afternoon, and welcome to another Super Secret Project sketch. This is Eric Whalen from Super Secret Project X, and today, I've had some rest, and today we are going to be doing Thunder Empress Archis Nay, a character that I do not expect everybody to know, but those who know her love her for many reasons. I love this character. As a matter of fact, I love a lot of the characters from Bastard, 2 exclamation points, Destructive God of Darkness. A series, again, that if you don't know, I am sorry. Personally, I think it's wonderful. It's cheap, it's tawdry, it's violent, it's funny. Funny. I don't know the manga at all well, but I do not know where my page is. I do happen to love the anime quite a bit. We had this is one of my really great high school anime memories. We used to, I still only know like one of the 4 guys, George, but we went over to hang over at George's, and Lou, it wasn't his place, it was like his uncle's place or something. And we'd have a random anime night, and they were like, oh, we've got a... And my friend Ian at the time, dude that didn't end up being such a great guy, but at the time was awesome. So we all got into a basement, which was perfect, had like the 70s finish, the couch, everything. VHS tapes, Mountain Dew, yada yada. It was a great time. And they're like, we're going to put... No, actually they put in, I believe, if I recall correctly, some Crayon Shin-Chan, which I still do not get into. That's not my groove.
It was still pretty messed up.
It was, but it's just not really my thing. And then threw in... And it was a long night, so all of Bastard, Destructive God of Darkness. And it is just a funny series. Beautiful artwork, yada yada, and there is this wonderful creature. I mean, she's just wonderfully illustrated. They make her mysterious and dangerous and blah blah blah, and she's just wonderful. And about the main character's equal, which was nice. It's just that he has a plot on his side, so he's unstoppable. They almost even joke about it, which is great.
It's one of the ones I hadn't seen. I think you guys, when I first met y'all in college, I think we watched maybe 1 episode or so. I think it was one of the ones when we were getting the anime club going, and I think maybe you put in 1 episode or something. I can't remember, but I don't remember much of it other than the title, which of course cracked me up.
It's a great title.
Coming from a Christian home, saying something called "bastard!" exclamation point.
Yeah, exactly. 2 2 exclamation points.
Well, you know,
lovely.
but yeah, it's just I've seen the manga when they brought it over here. When I worked at the comic shop, we had copies of it, and I always just thought of it as being one of the super serious kind of.
It has a lot of it is that way,
and I never knew anything else about it other than it just looked like something. To me, it looked like one of those ones that was the super serious fantasy thing that I wouldn't get into because it seemed too convoluted.
Some of them really, and it's nothing against anime of roughly that time period. There was a bunch of them, and there's nothing wrong with them, but they were. There was a bunch of fantasy where, like Lotus Wars and such, where it was cool, it was beautiful, but it was also kind of like taking itself too seriously. You know, and that was the thing that Bastard did not do. There was these wonderful bits where And they were. There was my favorite scene in the whole thing was dead serious, and it was really great. It's been Dark Schneider and Arshis Ney are fighting each other, and it's so dramatic and so good, and it's one of my favorite fights of all time. And there's very little actual fighting in it, which is great. It was just beautifully done, but it was also cheap and tawdry and stupid, and has a bunch of dumb jokes. And the main character is stunningly full of himself, and it makes it so. I mean, D. Snyder is literally based off, or Dark Schneider is literally based off of D. Snyder from Twisted Sister. I mean, there's so many heavy metal jokes in this that it's just, it's amazing.
Did you say it was more like music and heavy metal jokes more than JoJo, or was it?
Way more.
Wow. Okay.
Way more. As a matter of fact, so many. And well, actually, JoJo might outdo it only because of the sheer length of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures.
That they use music references from everybody, not just,
exactly.
Yeah.
But with Bastard, they went in, and everything that was a music reference was heavy metal. There was there was like the country of Metallicana. I mean, it was just Tesla and Whitesnake and one of my favorite, the demonic spell of Guns N' Row. You're just like, I mean, to the point where you're just waiting for the next one. I mean, just so ridiculous and so wonderfully over the top. And you know, they had these great just sort of jokes that just kind of, you saw it coming, but it didn't matter because they kept like building on it every single time. It's not like it's the greatest thing ever, but back in high school it was the first thing I saw exactly like it. And it had a great style to it, and we had a great time that night. And what was really funny was the subtitle they had gotten was back when they had fan subtitled stuff. So it was like, I would say, more artfully subtitled. It may not be as accurate, but like the spirit of it was, so they would just have these subtitles that were really funny. I mean really, really funny. And just it was a great night. And when people go like, what's my favorite fantasy anime, and everyone says like Lotus Wars, or pick one of the many that people usually go to, and almost nobody says Bastard. And I love Bastard because it just kind of made fun of itself, as well as made this glorious, wonderful fantasy anime, but laughed at itself at the same time. And that's why I think I really, really enjoyed it. It gave you that nice pile of, here's the plot, here's the characters, here's the story, yada yada, and you're like, yeah. And then it would also just be weird at the same time. You know, like it was a fantasy series.
Animes want to do.
Well, it was a fantasy series that took place quite clearly in the apocalyptic future.
Right.
So they would be going through like the Valley of Death, and it would be an ash-filled city. And they didn't call it the Valley of Death, but that's kind of what they were kind of doing. And it was clearly an ash-filled city, and there were skyscrapers and stuff, and they were just coming up out of the ash. And, you know, they, to my recollection, outside of being like, oh, the great god that, you know, Anthrathrax, if I recall correctly, that destroyed the world in 7 days, blah, 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 yada, yada. It was quite clearly that Anthrathrax had destroyed this world and had created this wacky fantasy world in the future. That's not new. But most of the fantasy ones were like, guess what? This is our D&D campaign. And then we made it into anime. And you're like, okay, cool. You know, I'm cool with that. If it's a good story, I don't care.
Yeah.
But with this one, they were just like, nope, we're going in for entertainment value. And you totally would get like, you know, the all the fan service and all the stupid jokes and, you know, blah, blah, blah. it was just fun. I mean, it just really, really fun. And I honestly haven't seen something that fun in a long while, to be honest. And it was cheap and tawdry and yada yada. And one of the things that I liked was the main character should have been the main villain of the series, except that the current main villain was something that he couldn't even let happen. So your main hero in another series, and they made it very clear in another series, was the main villain. And they were like, no, we're not doing that series. This is the series that happens after the series that was never made, where the main villain who was defeated is now the hero. And that's why I love Dee Snider, because he's an egotistical villain who's fighting the other egotistical villains. And he's just so much more fun because he's not some, like, roll your eyes. Well, no, roll your eyes, perfect, virtuous hero. I have room in my head for one or two of those total. In all of my life, I only want so much. And it's one or two of that. And so he was like, no, he was the opposite. He was a jerk. He was an evil, horrible, egomaniacal jerk who was playing the part of the hero. And what the great thing is they made it, and that's what Arshis Ney was so good at, is they made it clear that he had fallen in love with people, yada yada. They were villains, but he was showing real, actual connections to people. And that was why he, outside of the fact he was kind of forced into being a hero, he ended up having, these wonderful, heroic, virtuous moments because of, even though some of the evil people he knew, acting like a hero. And Arshis Ney was one of the best ones for that, because he legitimately loved her a lot and ended up actually really sacrificing himself for her. I mean, really virtuous, heroic acts, via a villain. And that's why he was so entertaining. And she, which was great, was totally, clearly a villain. But wasn't like a sadistic moo-ha-ha like you were saying, like Psychopath. She was just villainous because people had treated her so badly. And everyone was racist against her. She's a dark elf, and her own people were racist against her, and humans were racist against her because she was not only an elf, but a dark elf. And so she found a place amongst the villains. So she was a villain. But she wasn't a horrible person, That's what I loved about Bastard, is there was a lot of characters that were just right on that edge of you didn't know what they were.
I'm trying to think. I am completely blanking on it. Like I said, I haven't seen much at all of it, so I'm trying to remember the characters. There was Dark Snider was the guy, he had white hair?
Yes.
Okay, so who was the guy who had like the dark hair? Who's the dark hair dude?
Dark short hair with like metallic shoulder pads.
And had the giant sword, right?
Ninja Master Gara.
Yeah, because he's the one I remember because
He's fun.
Yeah, he's the one that, and I don't know how many people, if he admitted it or so, but Garrison from Battle Chasers was basically. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. Battle Chasers ripped off Ninja Master Gara. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I saw it, and I'm like, that's Ninja Master Gara. With a few more like studs on his shoulder pads.
Well, his name is Garrison.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so like they so clearly did not cover up the fact that they were ripping off Bastard.
Well, Joe Matt is a huge anime fan.
No doubt. He still did it, though.
If I remember, he actually said, yeah, this is one of my favorite anime. No one ever talks about it. And so he's like, this is just pretty much one of my characters, one of my homage characters. And he's like, yep, it is what it is.
It is exactly right. And I don't blame him.
It's not covering it up. This is
he was honest about it. That's fine. It's when people rip off characters and they go, no, I didn't rip it off. It's a coincidence. And you're like, no, just say you ripped them off.
This was my fan character.
just my
Yes, it
fan
is.
character.
Yes,
It
is.
just happens to look like Goku in Superman's costume. Which, by the way, he actually killed Superman because Goku is so much better, and blah, blah, and you're just like, no, just say you've ripped the character off. Everyone will be okay with it.
There's nothing wrong with homage characters or
No, nothing at all.
taking characters that you really like and making them their own. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be honest with yourself of what it is.
Well, and not only that, but it's not only good for the fan base because they can trust you. It's good for yourself because you go like, I for so long have been trying to emulate some of the heroic characters out of JoJo's and have failed consistently because I don't want to rip characters off. I want to be like, I love Jotaro from JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. I love several of the major characters. Oh shoot, I'm blanking. Jotaro's dad. That's I'm sorry,
Joseph.
grandfather. That is
Joseph?
Joseph. Joseph. I love Joseph, both the younger and older version of him. So I've been trying to create characters that I can emulate the awesomeness of these characters. I have consistently failed up until one design recently. Where some of the people that I trust to go to, I went, what do you think? And one of them came out, it's like, wow, that's like a Latino Jotaro from JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. I'm like, oh, thank you, I got it. I didn't tell him, I didn't say that's what I was doing. He said it, and I'm like, oh, thank you. I finally got close enough. So it has taken just years, and the thing is I'll admit it. I've been trying to do that, and if it's Madura, right? Joe Madura.
Joe, they call him Joe Mad, but I think it's either Madureira.
I can never recall.
Yeah, I know how to spell it, and I can see it in my head, but I'm trying to.
I always was confused. I was like,
the Spanish pronunciation. I never want to butcher it, so I just call him Joe Mad.
the Madman. He's so clearly ripped off Ninja Master Gara. I mean, you're just going like, you better admit to it, dude. It's really. It's like drawing Pac-Man and making Pac-Man orange yellow and being like, oh no, this is Puck-Man. I totally invented this character.
One of my oldest first characters I've ever came up with, way back when I was a
Little squirt.
squirt, was she was based off of Gadget from Rescue Rangers.
Oh yeah.
It's like because
Yep.
I came up with the character way before then. When I saw Rescue Rangers, I'm just like, I want to make a Gadget character.
Yep.
Gadget's so awesome. And
Gadget is awesome.
yeah, and I pretty much just reconstructed Gadget, or this character to look like her in a sense, and just kind of melded it together. And like I said, one of my oldest characters that I still to this day is one of my babies.
Sure.
I need to play around with those characters again because I really miss them. But yeah, it's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah,
Just be honest about
Yeah,
it.
if you have characters that you love, to anybody who may be listening, which no one's listening, but anyone who
Oh,
may
we
see
got one
this-
person listening.
Yeah, that's
I don't
me.
know who it is.
That's me right here.
Oh.
Oh, I should have kept that soft. Okay.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
oh, it's
no,
okay.
We have one person listening, sweetie. We do.
And she's over on the couch.
Oh. What up, Doc?
But yeah, it's to me, I actually think it's entirely fine. Just don't whole cloth rip the character off. Do your best to craft the best character that you can do, because it is impossible to be completely original anymore. It's just when I just see people go like, oh no, it's like, no, this is completely mine, yada yada. Oh, it's a coincidence, and I just go like, just admit to it. Just admit to it.
Yeah, and again, there's nothing wrong with that if you're doing it for the sake of practice and character, learning how to build characters and.
Well, plus, if you're doing a series like a series, and you kind of want to get in on a little bit of the feel and the marketing and the fandom, I mean, to be honest, I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, but you compare it next to Fist, which it was clearly trying to compete with when it came out. They were clearly going, okay, what can we wholesale borrow from Fist? The inking was the same, the character designs were very similar. You know, Joseph Joestar was so clearly the British Kenshiro. I mean, but but by the time the series was really running and stuff, it differentiated itself, and then by the time it got to the second series, it was becoming very different, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that, you know. And I think that the guy clearly was like, "Oh yeah, no, blah blah blah, yada yada. That's what we were doing." I'm like, yeah, just admit to it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I thought Joseph was American.
Oh, wait. Jonathan was the first one. He was British.
Okay.
The second one was American,
Which was Joseph.
which was Joseph.
And then Jotaro
There's
was
the
son.
half American, half Japanese.
Yes, okay.
Okay,
There we
if I recall correctly.
Because I just remember the constant, oh my god!
I love when Jonathan is swearing in the most American ways possible in the series. It kills me every single time. Because he's clearly the big, loud, rude American, and I love that. Just, I love the big, loud American, insultingly so. They're just usually so funny. And I'm like, no, I see what you're doing. It's okay. Some of your American fans are in on the joke. It's cool. I get it.
Well, once again, like
We can be really loud and obnoxious.
It's like when we were talking about Ping Pong Club last week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The big American dude that was the transfer student that was over there was huge, blonde, and stinky. They made it a point to show just
How stinky he was.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm just going like, hey, maybe we are comparatively very stinky. I don't know.
Over to, at a culture where cleanliness and bathing is considered really important
Well,
over there.
and also a stunning level of politeness, and you know, we must be incredibly rude by comparison. But on the same note, it's incredibly clear that they like that about us, or at least some of them do.
Some of the other ones that I saw, the Food Wars, the American chef chick.
But she was Japanese, but she was so clearly like the American Japanese, which
I
was
thought
like,
she was American.
well, she had if I recall correctly, she had a Japanese name. They never actually said she was American.
She had like the USA bra and all that
Yeah, and she
stuff.
was like
Or
she was the beef,
yeah.
you know, like the Longhorn beef
I was
cook. So
like,
she was,
I thought
but
she
they
was
never
from Texas.
actually say it,
Okay, I thought
to
she
my
was- I
recollection.
thought she was like from Texas or something. 'Cause she said like she. I'm probably remembering it wrong. But I thought
Well,
they said something
I
about,
think it's easy to assume, as I think is what's happening there.
Oh,
Hey, Corey.
Hey, Corey.
Thunder Empress Arceus Nay from Bastard, 2 exclamation points. Bastard, destructive god of darkness. Yep. Freaking adore that series, and I love Thunder Empress Arceus Nay. You know, on my very short list of hot dark skinned characters. What? I can say it. I'm pasty as milk. I adore this character.
So why your list gotta be short though? So why the list is short though?
Because she's that high up on it. That's why it's a very short list, because her list that she's on is very short. She's right up at the top. Right up at the top.
Yeah, I was looking through some of the when I was looking through for the references and stuff, and they had like a bunch of statues and of course a lot of the artworks and all of that. And I'm just like, y'all whitewashing this chick.
They do. That's why I like the anime, because the color is always very consistent, and that's one of the reasons why she looks so good, because they gave her like the purple lipstick with the darker skin with the darker hair. And if I recall correctly, they didn't give her black hair, but they gave her super dark brown hair and very cocoa skin, and just just was a stunning, honestly stunning character, and it looks so good with the lighter like kind of tan cloths and the silver armoring and stuff, and she just always looked really cool. That's it's always a shame when they like whitewash characters, because I go like it's not just a matter of variety in my mind. You get different colors, different ways of weighting the character with light and dark, and the dark skinned characters just have a wonderful look about them. Not better, not worse, just, and so when you whitewash a character, you're like changing their visual design in more than one way. And I just love the because she's not like African dark skinned where it's black with dark brown. She's got just these wonderful varying shades of dark brown. And if I recall correctly, in the anime, wow, now that I think about it, I haven't seen the anime in a while. I don't think they made her hair black. I think they made it very dark brown. But anyways, it's nice when you look at a lot of anime and every single freaking girl has a different pastel color hair, and you get just so tired of it after a while. And her, it was these more natural tones, and it just looked so good. And
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, from that time period, they just really didn't know how to do a lot of dark characters and stuff, because, that and
but this was one of the times they did it right.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like, what I was saying also is
Looked
that
good.
a lot of the stories they were dealing with didn't deal with a lot of dark-skinned characters, so they really didn't do so. But now it's actually, they've actually, like, a lot of the anime that's been coming out the past, like, probably 4 or 5 years or so, they've really been like paying attention and actually adding darker characters. Like, what did I say? Even the last like 10 years almost.
Well, the funny thing is, Japan is right over near India, and when they do dark skin, they usually do Indian people, and they may not really make them look like Indian, but sometimes you get like an Indian name, or it's mentioned India, so their concept of dark-skinned is usually Indian, which is fine, because Indian characters can honestly be awesome. But that's why I get confused when they they don't normally do dark-skinned characters. I'm like, no, they've been doing them for a long time. It's just that they rarely ever did it.
Well, I'm saying it's when they did do them, it was either they did them with the typical anime features, so they made all of them thin-lipped, giant-eyed, or they were these. If they did the guy characters, they were like the super brute-looking characters and all.
Which I'm not against the big, thick, heavy kind of, but when you always do it.
Well, yeah, and it's like, again, variety. It's like, once again, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures with Abdul. I mean, that was a really neat-looking design.
Yeah,
but of
I
course,
love Abdul.
Everybody was caricaturized in that show, so it was like it fit the aesthetic. But I mean, when you have things like I think one of the earliest ones I saw was Macross with what's her name, the black chicken.
Want to say Claudia?
Yeah, Claudia. She was like probably one of the first positive representations I saw of a.
And she had like the shortcut, kinky, like what you would really call
Actual
black hair.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She was one of the first positive ones I saw with that, and I was like, oh, because everyone else was either a super duper caricature or or just completely just, we just threw brown paint on this other like Anglo eyes looking character.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that Thunder Empress Archesne was specifically African or blah 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 blah.
Was elven. She was
but yeah,
fantasy.
she was dark elf. I mean, they went in and they were doing a fantasy race, but they went in and they didn't go like, okay, she's dark skinned, but give her bright pink hair.
Yeah.
you know, or and the funny thing is, I'm not going to say that they didn't anglicize her because you can't tell because everyone in the series had the character designer's specific kind of look, and you really couldn't. It wasn't Asian, it wasn't Caucasian. You really couldn't tell. It was just really nice that they went in and they just had this very softly cocoa-y, you know, it was really cool, and she was a wonderfully, you know, strong, beautiful character, and was always just one of my favorites.
The one that cracks me up was the one brief appearance was like what, a minute long scene out of Black Heaven, where the one guy who gets punched to death by
The big American black dude with all the muscles,
yeah, and
with the nasally white voice.
yeah, that one, I was not expecting that the first time I saw that, and I laughed in my surprise because
Everyone did.
This huge black guy in terms of, yo man, hey, what the F, man? I was like, wait, what?
He was so funny.
And that was one of the ones where they also did a not so great characterization of him, but again,
It wasn't really insulting, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't great
That's
either.
what I'm saying. It wasn't very great.
They clearly were not intending to be mean. I think that was they were a little naive.
Yeah, because for me it was like, okay, the big burly, weird looking caricaturized black guy.
Well, he was also kind of punkish too. So some of it, I think, they were clearly trying to.
But again, no, but still. Yeah, that, like I said, it caught me by surprise, and I laughed more than anything because of the voice that came out of him. But
the voice was hilarious.
yeah, but yeah, like I said, within the last 10 years or so, they've been doing a better job of, which I think since there's been a lot more black people, African people coming over in Japan and actually getting into society itself or integrating into society. They're actually like, oh.
Well,
okay,
that's important. If you don't have an example, you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean that's a set of islands with 99% like one race. So
Yeah,
I mean,
and when they purposefully shut themselves out or shut anything else out other than just media, that's what you get.
Yeah.
It's the exact same way how Americans portrayed Asian people when they didn't know about them back in the 50s and 60s and stuff. But yeah, I forgot what I was going to say.
We had so funny. We not so much anymore because of the whole everything going on, but we had people from manufacturing representatives and such from China come into the building, and so they would come in, yada yada, and do the business and this and that, and there'd be this one, and I think she was Chinese. It could have been from another nation, but if I recall correctly, it was Chinese. And had one of our ladies there, which was hilarious, and I love her to death. I won't say her name because, yada yada. But they're sitting around and they're talking about fashion and this and that, because I'm trying to remember what it was they were purchasing, but somehow they'd gotten onto the fashion thing. And this lady came right out and she said, "Why isn't it that there's no attractive black women anywhere?" And the lady at work goes, she's half black, half white.
Okay.
And she sat there and looked at her and went, "I'm black." And the whole conversation dropped dead silent as this lady just stopped and went, because she just she just didn't understand. She was like she just didn't get it. I mean, I'm not saying that it's right. I'm saying it comes from like this place of like stunning kind of ignorance of they don't know. And the ones that do know are just being jerks, but there's ones out there they just don't know, and you're like, oh, she's been like in her country for so long, with a populace of like one race that she just, and on top of it, if it was China, they're not real good at bringing in stuff over the border. And
not only that, when you're told this one aesthetic is what is considered beautiful,
yeah,
what else are you going to do and say? Which it's ignorance on her part.
Yeah.
And for her to come out and just completely say
which
that.
is weird. Like you would just come out and say something like that.
Yeah. but again, ignorance and not knowing, because I've had people say stuff not like that, but say things in a similar vein to me about my race,
Which
and,
makes no sense.
yeah, and it's one of those things where I'm just why
I'm like,
I
have you seen black women? I'm like, I'm sorry. Did you just walk into the world? You saw one? You know? How? What?
and
I don't
it's
understand.
Like, yeah, and if I was, I see my petty Crocker would have probably came out if that was me, and just would have said something completely snarky back at her. But it's like, again, I've been coming from a place of ignorance and not knowing and not realizing. Don't.
Well, yeah, that's kind of my sort of thought process on stuff. There's just some things where it's just like, you know what? Just don't even say it if you don't even know. Like, I mean, clearly there's like this little bit where it's like you don't know what to say. But on the same note, she was just simply saying something negative. Let's take the racial component out.
Right.
She was still just saying something negative. So it's just like, don't. Don't do that.
Pro tip, don't.
Pro tip, don't. You know, it's just like.
What was the black one? What was, other than the conversation drop? What happened after that? Any idea?
Oh, it quickly died, and the lady just did not know what to do with herself because she was just like the heart thing, boop, 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 boop. Like just completely had no idea what to do after that point because, and it's like, well, don't.
How do you recover from that?
How do you recover from that? You know, because it was just like,
scratch.
you just walked into a room and kicked a baby, and everyone turned on you and went, and you just said,
What, y'all don't do that here?
That's it. You know, what do you do? You know, you just be like, oh, there was a fly on the baby. There's just nothing you can do. There's just nothing that can be said. And what are you gonna? I mean,
she learned that day.
That's a lot of just don't. You know, something mean came out of your mouth. That should have been your first indicator.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I just.
But,
Dumb.
a lot of the newer anime and stuff. I still
They're
the
getting better.
one I've been really wanting to watch. I think it's called Michiko no Hachin. But it's
I
about
want to say that sounds familiar.
Yeah, I've told you about it a couple of times. It's like the Brazilian,
Okay.
like I think she's like almost like a some type of like spy or thief or something like that. And from what I saw of it, I'm like, I totally want to watch this. But I keep trying to find it, and then when I do find it, I'm like, okay, I'll watch it, and it gets on the list, and then unfortunately, I don't get a chance to watch it. But yeah, her character design is really nice. They've like a lot of the anime that's been coming out recently. They've not only have been putting characters in the background that are actually black, but actually make them part of the actual like full-time cast.
Well, they
stuff.
should.
Yeah, that's
I just have one basic rule. It's simple. There's no politics. There's no nothing involved. If there are types of people in the world, put them in. There's no pros. There's no anti. There's no, this or it's just like, look. It's why when people go, you realize there's a gay person in the show? I'm like, yeah, there's gay people in the world. They're not. That doesn't mean that anyone's saying anything other than that. It's just like, it's just how the world is. There's different people in it. Put them in the freaking show.
welcome to the universe.
Yeah, welcome to reality. It's weird when you don't put people in.
Yeah.
That's when it's weird.
Yeah, folks exist.
Because that's my point. Is you just look and you realize there's no fat people in your show. Well, we do. You realize there's fat people in the world. I'm just saying, there's fat people. Nothing pro or against. They exist. Put them in, and build a great character and build a jerk character. Have multiple fat people, good and evil. multiple fat people. But it's
Another great band name.
multiple fat people. Well, it's like I was talking to my writing friend, and she's very much a feminist. And so I go to her to read my stuff and make sure that I don't have characters that are out of control. And after a while, I was like, do you have any rules of thumb on, because sometiry I want to create a tawdry, stupid character. And she's like, oh no, it's fine. You can create these dumb, big booby characters if you want to. It's bad when they're all that way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, that's easy, because that's how I prefer to do stuff. You know, you want to have different kinds of characters. It's like, you know, it's, to me, it's kind of complimentary to have. In James Bond, Diamonds Are Forever. It's the one with the two gay assassins that nearly kill him multiple times, which, by the way, are the assassins that do it the most. They continually got closer than anyone else to taking James Bond out. People are like, well, we hate these characters because they're insulting. I'm going like, I loved those characters. And part of the, okay, admittedly, there were a few moments where the gay humor was a little insulting, but overall, these were actually really amazing characters. They were dangerous and psychotic and crazy and weird, and I just loved them. They were great. Yeah, there was a couple moments where you're like, okay, that was a little insensitive, but overall, they were really good characters. And when people are like, well, you can't have that, I'm like, really? Because they're kind of awesome.
Well, not only that, but again, no, not making excuses, but the that was the time. A lot
No,
of that stuff was considered.
that's not an excuse. That's the
Yeah.
truth. That was the time.
Yeah, I mean, like, queer was the word to use because they were in queer, not in the sense of the gay fashion, but in the sense of they were weird, quirky people.
And well, not only that, but the people of the time that weren't were kind of socially conditioned to view them as being not normal.
Right.
And okay, put all that aside, honestly, they were great characters, you know, and that's why I'm like, you know, when we had a lot of that politically correct garbage come out, that it was always like remember in the 90s when it was like what the extreme Ghostbusters or whatever, and they had to have the white guy and the black guy and the Hispanic girl and the guy who was in a wheelchair who could play basketball, you know, and it was, they had to have a little bit of everything. It was to the point where you looked at it and you're like, this is so weird, because it was so forced.
Yeah, and it had become patronizing as opposed to supportive.
That's it exactly.
And that was
Yep.
the problem with a lot of that stuff. It's just like when you throw it in there for the sake of, well, we got to hit our token demographics, like bingo card.
But
And it's like,
that doesn't help the people that you're trying to represent, though.
yeah, and it comes off as, at the very least, again, patronizing, at the very most insulting.
And I usually look at it as being insulting,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Well, it's like a prime example is when these school shootings were really ramping up the past couple of years and stuff, a couple of years ago, and they were just unfortunately just nonstop. One of the things that were put out, it was like some of the schools put out a thing saying, well, why don't you try and befriend the weird kid, blah blah. And so what ended up happening was the idiot popular kids, or the kids who thought they were funny, would walk up to the weird kid going, hey, do you want to be my friend? Because you're a weird kid. And that's the kind of stupid stuff that to me, that was...
Because the cool kids are typically complete douchebags.
Yeah, and that's the
Duh.
stuff, that's the feeling I was getting when, or I should say, the feeling that came back to me when that happened, when watching a lot of that stuff from like the 90s of basically the patronizing, we're going to be your friend because you're different. And it's just like, don't do that because we're different. Do that because of the sake of...
We're humans.
Yeah, they're human,
we're
like,
people.
Yeah, representation, you know?
Well, there was also the idea, and if you put no thought into what I'm about to say, it makes sense. Group A is having a problem. Don't ever create characters that are negative from Group A. Okay, so in other words, you know, we'll use the gay assassins from Diamonds Are Forever. Oh, you can't do that because that will show gay people as being assassins, being evil. It's just like, well, no, it's like what my friend said. It's just like, well, no, you can have dumb, big, booby female characters,
Mhm.
but don't make them all that way.
Yeah, and
You know, put in the awesome like girl that uses the toolkit and yada yada, and she's smart and she's quirky and wonderful.
well, not only that, but what people seem to not understand is things have gotten a lot better nowadays. But it's like make a character who is this, who just happens to be this thing.
That's how you do it.
Don't make that part of don't make that their only
Yeah.
personality. And
Yeah,
stuff, and
don't
that-
make the black guy the black guy.
Yeah, like he's a.
That's the
dude-
last thing you want
yeah,
to do.
He's a dude who does this, who also happens to be
To be
black.
black. Exactly right.
And that's where a lot of the people, and honestly, it's growing pains, because in the 90s, a lot of that stuff was coming ahead, and people were trying to be sensitive, but they didn't exactly know how, because
Sure.
unfortunately, they were just not getting the input from the community, because the community was constantly getting shut out, whatever communities that they were trying to deal with and stuff. And so that's why you got a lot of that stuff, and it happens on a constant basis of just people see, they try, they fail, they learn, it gets better, and it just
Yeah.
rinse, recycle, rinse, wash, repeat. And it's just whenever something new comes up, that's what's going to happen. It's part of the cycle. But the thing is, we're getting into the, at least in some senses now, when it comes to a lot of media, we're getting into the it's getting better part, because we're seeing a lot of a whole bunch of more representation of various groups in the positive light, and in the, hey, this is what they are, who just happens to be whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad we're getting that now, because I mean, there's media is becoming a lot better because of it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of the shows that we've watched they're fantastic, because like, oh, well, this character is this and this and this. That's a really great character who happens also to be this. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's like it's.
Well, it's just all the people out there that are like, I'd be pissed if there were no more white villains. I would. I like heroes and villains of all descriptions. So if there were no more white heroes, I'd be like, but I'd also be like, no more white villains. I'm like, Ernst Stravo Blofeld. That is the whitest villain you can make, and I love him. That bald, scarred, crazy, cat-stroking, megalomaniacal genius. Don't but does that mean that we can't have other variations on that character that's any number? Go ahead, do it. Just don't say that I can't have blank.
And if you are, that's the other thing. If you are going to put a group into a particular character, or make a character of a particular group, do it for this. Do it and actually like make their culture or their background an actual part of it, in a sense. It's like with
Yeah, be clever with your storytelling.
like prime example. Hey Joe, Joe says some people, or should I say, you savages.
Welcome home, you savage.
But make it as like a prime example. Comics, X-Men, Storm. Storm is black. She was raised in Africa, Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken. The amount of comics that completely ignored her African upbringing,
That makes sense.
and to the point where a lot of people also, once again, when they draw her and color her, they whitewash her. And it's like, no, a lot of the stuff that she dealt with is part of her upbringing. So like incorporate a lot of the African aesthetic into her life, into her things. And it's like, again, if you're going to make a person, make a cultural person, or a person of a different, well, I don't even want to say different, because normal is different. Different is normal. If you're going to make a particular a person a particular thing, make sure to actually study that person's thing and make it in a sense that to incorporate it and not be forced.
Well, there's also a character design element to Storm that's super important. Okay, let's take all of the character and just the visual way she's put together. What is, and this is going to sound dumb, but it also makes sense. Okay, you put her next to Jubilee. Okay, there's obvious things that make them different from each other. But one of the things is Jubilee is light skinned with black hair, and Storm is dark skinned with white hair.
Yeah.
So there's also a visually important element to that difference.
Yeah, it's like one of the most basic ones.
It's
Yeah.
it's just on a character design element. And so when you whitewash Storm, you're removing one of the visual cues that is that character.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it just okay, cultural stuff, that's BS. Storytelling, that's BS. But let's get down to the cold calculating just communication level. You've removed one of the indicators telling the people the difference between two characters. It's like making 15 freaking anime girls where their faces are exactly the same except for the hairstyle and hair color.
Yeah.
That drives me crazy. It's
Yep.
lazy. And so Storm, when I was a little kid, the first time I saw her was when she had the white mohawk thing. She specifically looked a certain way. Okay, get rid of the white mohawk thing. She still was dark-skinned, white-haired. That by itself tells you who she is.
Yeah.
There's very few characters on the planet with that specific setup. And that's one of the things where it's like, don't whitewash her. You're removing one of the most iconic visual elements of her.
Exactly.
Dark skin, I mean, and not black,
Yeah,
not
she
not
was
like
darker skinned, yes.
not like Blurple,
Yeah.
but very dark.
Yes.
And like Snow White hair. I mean, she's visually very specific.
Hey, Tracy popped on. Hey, man.
Hey Tracy, how's it going?
Sup, bruv?
Hey man, how's it going?
But yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like if you're going to incorporate a particular type of culture or background in there, make sure to
Do it.
do it and don't do it on a particular don't do it as a insulting crutch. And I guess I'm trying to put into words what I'm thinking here, because I know what I want to say, but my brain is just not letting me say it because I got allergy meds in me.
I'm a little foggy.
Yeah, just
I'm
a
a
little
little
bit.
foggy.
A little bit.
I'm a little foggy.
But yeah, it's like it's basically like if you're like putting a white person into something, and then making them all about making them a hillbilly without having a purpose for them being a hillbilly. Like,
Yeah, I
they're
mean,
just a
hillbillies
hillbilly.
are fine characters.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah.
But if
exactly.
you're just doing it just to do it,
Yeah, putting a black person in there and they automatically have baggy pants and talking ebonics. Like, okay, why are you doing that? Are you doing that for the sake of, like, is that all you think about what that is? Like,
Yeah.
what that person is like, don't do that. Once again, pro tip, don't.
yeah, pro tip, don't. It's easy, you know. Well, and the thing is if you don't know a group of people, just don't do it until you've at least gone out and gotten some kind of an idea. And if you want to have a really kind of shallow level idea about a group of people, I actually kind of think that's probably okay, because there's 10,000 different kinds of people on the planet. At least get a non-insulting, shallow concept. You know, that's infinitely better than complete and total ignorance, where you're walking into an insulting kind of potentially insulting kind of situation.
And even nowadays, it's like there's not even an excuse for that, because there's just everything is everywhere.
Yeah, you
nowadays.
can get a pretty good idea
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah.
I mean, remember when we bring up Johnny Quest, it's like when the people are, it's insulting all the like mishmash languages that they just had the people. I'm like, they were in New York in the 60s. You know, that's a South American language that the actors may never have ever actually heard.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason why they did the things they did, and maybe it was they were being jerks.
That was
But
that area was still considered super exotic at
Yeah.
the time period. So if, like, of course all they have was just recordings and video and like some pictures of.
And they may not even have that. They may literally have. They go, all right, this guy's Chilean, and the voice actor goes, what does that even sound like? Well, imagine sort of the guy down at the taco restaurant, but different. And so this poor guy's sitting there going like,
Except he's a savage.
or he's tribal, or he's this, or and then this poor voice actor, and they go, okay, we have next couple hours to finish this up for the next episode because they need to blah blah blah. Here, just start making some from a language you've never heard.
Yeah.
You start making some words up. And these poor dudes back in the 60s, I'm just sitting there like when I'm rewatching Johnny Quest, I'm going like, trying to imagine myself in the same situation going like, I couldn't have done any better. If you don't know what it sounds like and you have no access to it, there's a reason why some of that sounded really insulting, because it was probably coming out of dudes that were like, what?
It's South American, okay.
That doesn't tell me anything.
Mexico? Sure, close enough.
And I'll be honest with you, outside of saying like "en fuego," that's about all I can say.
You can say hola.
Hola, I can say like enchilada or
You know a lot of,
ranchero. I mean, there's not much I can say. And to be like, all right, now, you know, try to take that and turn it into some gibberish that sounds like a Hispanic person is talking on a cartoon, not in English.
yeah.
You know, that's got to be tough to do.
Yeah.
But
by
these
the-
days, you can at least YouTube it and be like, well, what does that roughly sound like? You know?
Oh, and also, by the way, do it in the character's voice.
And by the way, I'll just use Johnny Quest. You have to do it as a character who was drug out of his fishing boat by a reptile man right before a laser blew your boat up. Go! And this guy's sitting here with like the microphone. And that's usually the scene that I'm seeing in my head as I'm watching Johnny Quest going like, that poor guy. There was no way he could have made that sound right.
We're gonna give you a couple of takes here, and third try, nail it. We're on the schedule. We pay by line here. We gotta go.
We got to get going. I mean, you got to give that show credit. I mean, the guy that did Haji was a Indian kid in America. He was literally the Indian kid on the show was being voiced by an Indian kid.
Yeah, which was big.
Give them credit.
Yeah.
That's the 60s
Yeah,
and they
that
did
was-
that.
That was pretty big.
You know, I'm just saying. I mean, Racist Bannon had some moments where you were going like, dude, you did not just do that.
Yeah, I still believe that's one of the fucking racist bands.
He had a couple moments where he deserves that name. The rest of the time, though, he was a great character. I love him. But you had a few moments where you're like, dude, no, don't. You don't say that, dude. Even in the 60s, you don't say that. You know, it's just like, what the? No. Racist Bannon. But I love Race Bannon, though. I think he's a great character. But there's a few moments where you're like, well, I have the Blu-rays that are completely unedited, so I have what was originally said on the show and not censored. And I love that show. But there's a few moments where you went, oh, really? But most of the time, though, I'm like looking at stuff going like, somebody right now on the internet would watch this and be slamming this for being really racially insensitive and racist and blah, blah, blah. But I'm going like...
Culturally inappropriate, yep.
But I'm also like, I'm kind of taking the historical context in my going like, nah, they may not have really understood what they were doing there. In other moments, I'm like, they knew what they were doing.
Joe says, race. I wish I was as popular as Clutch Cargo. Bannon.
Wait a second. Was Clutch Cargo more popular? God, I hope not. I'm not as much up on Clutch Cargo or its popular. I can't get over that weird lipstick look that the show had. Though I give it credit because it's kind of awesome because it's so weird. You know?
Chapstick would have made a fortune if they would have sponsored that show. who was out during that time. Race Bannon. My hair's not the only thing that's white.
You know, I love a lot of shows, but I try to keep the time period and stuff and what was going on kind of in my mind.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I don't think it's fair to people in the past that you look at stuff and just go like, my current morals are saying that's wrong. Well, people weren't. I'm not saying that people were right in the past. I'm simply saying that it was different, and people just didn't have the same perspective.
Unless it was specifically known for being a very bad jerk show and making fun and being purposefully insensitive. But it's like, but yeah, stuff like that's like that.
There's a lot of stuff where I don't think they realized what it sounded like.
Bugs Bunny cartoons with the black face and the yellow face and the I mean, one of the few things that Bugs Bunny and Looney Tunes did get right, in a sense, was Bugs dressing in drag a lot of the time. And I was like,
I still say it's funny.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely hilarious. It's like it's one of the few things that it wasn't insulting, like that he did. I mean, like the other stuff.
I don't think it was ever. I don't think in his particular case. I don't think it was meant to be.
Well,
mean. That's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you.
Exactly. But it's like all the other stuff. It's like what was that? One of the censored ones where.
Coal Black and the Seven Dwarfs.
Well, that's different. I'm saying
I still say she's one of the hottest Warner Brothers characters ever made.
Yeah, well,
it's so inappropriate. But.
Yeah. Well, I was saying in Bugs Bunny in general, a lot of the censored cartoons from the actual Looney Tunes stuff. One of them being when one of the scenes was Yosemite Sam was a Confederate soldier, and
of course he was.
Yeah, and so he was looking for Bugs Bunny, and Bugs Bunny comes out in pure blackface.
Oh, I remember that one and did the whole like scared slave bit.
Yosemite Sam kind of just took off. Hey there, son. Hey there, boy. Have you seen yada yada? And
I didn't get that when I was a kid, but it didn't take me long to figure it out.
Yeah, and the thing is, Yosemite Sam wasn't mean to him.
No, he wasn't.
But it was just the whole thing of, hey there, boy.
He actually was kind of nice to the slave. Give him credit. You know what I mean?
He was being
for Yosemite Sam, that's pretty good.
Yeah, he actually smiled and was actually nice and well, as nice as you could be towards the caricature that was there. But yeah, I remember as a kid I saw that. I think I saw that once, and then saw it again, of course, when I was an adult on the uncensored pack that I found that I got, and I was just like, oh, there it is. Well, that there were like a bunch of them, of course, and then of course, Coal Black was on there. Yeah.
Well, there was moments in Coal Black that was not insulting, but wow.
The majority of it was though.
But the majority of it, oh my god, whoa.
No, the one to me that was super insulting. I think I only made it like about 3 minutes in, which cartoon length is a long time still. But the entire 2.5 minutes of it was literally just this long pan of all of the lazy black folks laying around on the river. They were just laying or sleeping or not doing it, and I'm like, this is what.
This is insulting.
Yeah, as the saying goes, y'all. Well, then I'm not even gonna go there, but yeah, it was. I was like, huh, and then I'm trying to think what was it, because I fast forwarded it because I was just trying to get past that part because it was just such a. I was just like, wow, really, this is what this is, huh? And then when they got to the part where they were all like getting up and dancing and doing all the caricature, shucking and jiving and stuff like that, and that was probably about another minute and a half, but it was like literally a whole cartoon of just showing how lazy black folks were, and I'm just like, huh, wow, this is this is what this is, huh? And again, this was a product of the time period.
Yep.
And I was like, I can't get, I'm uncomfortable, very much so, but I'm like, I can I can get mad on the behalf of my mother, my father, and my grandparents. That's the way I looked at it, because they saw this and went, "Wow,
Thanks.
yeah, exactly."
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
Like, yeah.
Well, there's one, and I always bring it up as a joke because it's really bad. But then I checked the date on it, and suddenly the whole thing made sense. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it made sense. Was the Max Fleischer Superman Japa Tours episode,
Yes, yeah.
where where Clark Kent goes over to Japan, and Superman beats the living tar
Yeah.
out of the Japanese Navy.
Yeah.
I checked the date. It was during World War II, if I recall correctly, when that came out. So I go like, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying, historically speaking, you're like, okay, I see what's going on here. At least you go, there's functionally a reason why they did it.
Superman was defeating the bad guys.
Yeah, we were fighting them. At least you can, like, I have Granddad's original menu from the USS Hornet that he kept, and it's in pristine condition, and it's, the menu they'd be given, this is for what's lunch today, and by the way, cigarettes were on the dessert part of the menu. But there was a big racist anti-Japanese Tojo cartoon with the glasses and the teeth and everything on it. And it's just like, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying, historically speaking, what was going on at the time, and they were killing the Japanese at the time. And you're like, functionally, they had to dehumanize people that they were, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's like, well, that's war. So you can kind of see it. But then the later stuff, you're like, you're just being a jerk. You're not even fighting these people. That was low-hanging fruit. That's lazy. That's lazy. It's lazy and it's mean. You're like, and stop.
Alright, so back to the character. We took a long route with that one.
Well, we kind of did. I mean,
Yeah, we were given...
what am I going to do? Talk about how hot Arshis Ney is for like
Well, you did that
over
with,
an hour and 10 minutes?
You did that with the chick beforehand.
Well, no, I talked about her beating on dudes and,
And also being hot.
well, yeah. That is true.
She's hot.
She's
that on an episode of what was that? Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, where the keeper's granddaughter, Frankie, she was going on a date, and so she was all like made up and had like a tight black dress on, and Blue kept looking at her, and every time somebody was like, "Oh, you look really nice, Frankie," she's hot, and you're going in yada yada yada, and she's hot.
That's awesome. I vaguely remember that.
Oh man, that was another good show.
That was a good one. I've been meaning to put it on.
Yeah, we have.
It's
right?
on Hulu, I think.
Yeah, it's good. I remember really enjoying it when I watched it. It just had some really great just heart moments in there too.
It was just a solid show. It was one of those ones where you're not like, oh my god, but it was one of those ones where it was a really solid, well put together show.
And also done by Craig McCracken and company and stuff. So yeah, I honestly wasn't expecting anything less.
It's got some McCracken going on.
Yeah, and Sean McCracken.
They're Sean McCracken.
Anything else you would like to say about Arshis Ney there?
No, I should probably be finishing up. There's other stuff I technically need to be doing today.
Oh, looking really good though.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. Yeah. By the way, I'm not whitewashing the character. I'm not going to go in and fill all the tones in on this character. It's just a sketch. It's just a sketch.
Just a sketch. I'm surprised there hasn't been like a sketch show called that. It's just a sketch. Sounds like some Cartoon Network stuff. Or some Adult Swim stuff. It's just a sketch, guys.
Shoot, that's some Adult Swim stuff right there. Everyone out of the pool. I think that's good enough.
Yeah.
The awesome thing is I had entirely forgotten that I had drawn her. So this is going to be an extra saucy closing today. Saucy. Saucy. All right, you savages.
You savages like your sauce.
Oh, you savages, always with your sauce. All right.
Dripping all over.
Say. All right. I just realized that we are well past the halfway point on my sketchbook. We're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, so, as is tradition, every single time we close the book with two characters facing each other, sealed for eternity in my sketchbook. It ends with a kiss. Sealed, tight for freshness.
Let the fan fictions begin.
Oh my god, that was savage.
Savages and your shipping. Fan fiction.
Anywho, everyone have yourself a good week. Thank you for joining us. And we will catch you later.
And always stay healthy, drink water, wash your hands, be good.